drug transport vehicle disguised as a pig feed truck was trying to cross the famously strictest border checkpoint. Ahead was a long line of congested vehicles. They waited to be questioned in turn. The accomplices in the car tensely watched their surroundings. The police quickly approached their turn. The driver was sweating profusely, fearing discovery. An officer walked around the vehicle, checking it. He suddenly noticed the driver's injured right hand. He immediately asked them to wait a moment. At that moment, the hacker watching the situation saw police using a special light to inspect the drug vehicle. He immediately called the checkpoint. He claimed to be from the FBI, monitoring via satellite. He reported a suspicious vehicle trying to cross the border through Tijuana. Before he finished speaking, the accomplice next to the driver floored the gas. He crashed wildly to create a diversion. The female accomplice, disguised as a police officer, turned on her siren. Acting on duty, she rushed to subdue the man. She acted professionally. She tackled him and pinned him to the ground. This prevented real police from mistaking the opening fire. The diversion was brilliant. It redirected attention from east to west, which attracted all the police. The third person used the chance to open the gate. He let the truck escape. The four coordinated perfectly. They successfully brought the 50 million drug shipment into the US. But they were not a drug trafficking organization. They were a special investigation team formed by the FBI. But why were the agents transporting drugs for criminals? Everything began a few days earlier in broad daylight. A Department of Homeland Security agent was hunted by criminals. He knocked down two burly men, then fled. He knocked down two burly men, then fled. He ran into a crowded neighborhood nearby. He reeved through maze-like alleys. He grabbed a parked electric scooter and threw it backward. He finally shook off his pursuers and reached the main road, but a bearded man from the front unexpectedly shot him down. At the same time, at a Los Angeles prison, an undercover officer, Mark Meacham, had a scuffle with a cellmate during his break. Both sides brawled and dust flew everywhere. Guards rushed to subdue them and dragged them away. Sergeant Lambert heard the news and immediately appeared. Fearing a scolding, Mark quickly explained he was about to get important information. Unexpectedly, Lambert announced his mission would soon end. Mark was stunned, as if struck by lightning. He had been stuck in this hellish place for 9 months. How could he just withdraw? Lambert interrupted his complaints. He explained Mark was transferred to a federal special operations team. Quickly pack your bags and return to Los Angeles. It turned out that after the security agent was murdered in the street, superiors immediately assembled a secret team. It included undercover personnel from various units. They formed a top-secret special investigation team. Besides Mark, another DIA agent named Oliver was unit's investigation team. Besides Mark, another DIA agent named Oliver was undercover in Quarrytown. She had also just received orders from superiors, but just minutes before, she was hanging from a rafter. Fortunately, a janitor passed by and felt pity. The janitor placed an iron barrel next to Oliver. Oliver stepped on it to untie her hands. She then used a baseball bat to knock out two guard dogs. Finally, she contacted her superiors. Not long after, all selected agents had assembled. Nathan, the special operations team leader, stood in front and spoke. He had worked for the FBI for 22 years. He had led 5 different special investigation team leaders. Stood in front and spoke. He had worked for the FBI for 22 years. He had led 5 or stepped on a team. The people assembled today were the best elites from each unit. First was Damon Dizio, the man in the shirt. He was from the Department of Homeland Security's Intelligence Analysis Office. He was Nathan's capable assistant. Next was Oliver, with 14 years of rich experience. She had served undercover many times in important operations. Then came Agent Ivan from the FBI. He knew domestic and international terrorist threats like the back of his hand. To Ivan's left was Agent Van from the Joint Interagency Task Force. She excelled in cyber investigations. Her specialties included digital fraud, computer attack. The tall man in the back row was Luke from the Los Angeles Police Department. He had 18 years of experience in the gang and narcotics unit. He was skilled at analyzing connections between firearms, gangs, and drug crimes. And finally, our protagonist Mark from the Los Angeles Police Department's homicide unit. He had cooperated with Nathan once before. The introduction of the special team members concludes here. Now it's time to clarify the specific mission. Confirmed information stated that yesterday at 8:30 a.m. Agent Zouton was shot. He was from Homeland Security's Customs and Border Protection was shot. He was shot in the heart at close range and died on the spot. Nearby stores in the Atom across the street had security cameras, but none captured a clear image of the culprit. They could only rely on witness accounts for a scat. The suspect was a black male, about 1.8 meters tall. He carried a handgun. The murder of a regular agent was not enough reason to form a special team. But 14 days earlier, Zouton's account suddenly received a 2,000 transfer. Nathan's people tried to trace the bank transaction, but they found all related data was concealed. Zouton's previous job at Customs and Border Protection was to monitor the New King gang. He monitored their activities in the Tijuana border area and at Long Beach port. Oliver immediately recognized the name New King. This organization formed in 2009. It was based on remnants of the disbanded Manta Gang. They reorganized and resumed operations. They specialized in contract killings and protection rackets. Their main targets were journalists, politicians, and police. In short, this case was full of mysteries. The entire operation had to be kept absolutely confidential. This included family and colleagues, and included family. They had to investigate in the shortest time. They needed to find out why Zouton was murdered and why he received that money. Was this related to his work at Customs and Border Protection? After the meeting, meeting, Mark, having free time, talked to Oliver, but he didn't know he was already famous. Oliver had heard about him. He had dumped Agent Melinda just 2 weeks before her wedding. Then he slept with her younger sister, Deidre. Listen, I just want to tell you one thing, okay? Mark said. And at the end, Deidre really looked like her sister. Ah, can you say that? Nathan called Van to meet Zootan's wife. He wanted to see if she knew about the bribery. When they arrived at Zootan's house, they found Zootan's brother-in-law was also there. Zootan's wife frankly stated, "My husband would never be involved in illegal activities." She was very emotional. She warned that if Nathan continued to slander Zootan, "We will sue you." The 9-year-old son heard his mother's anger. He buried his face in the bed and sobbed. The brother-in-law saw and heard his mother's anger. He buried his face in the bed and sobbed. The brother-in-law saw this. He unceremoniously escorted them out. Meanwhile, the other 4 went to Zootan's workplace. They planned to talk to some of his colleagues. Through their conversation, they learned Zootan was well-liked and always took his work seriously. He also had an informant network at both the border and the seaport. Almost all information about the New King organization was uncovered by Zootan. Every time he went on a mission, he wrote full detailed report. Only an old man named Jim believed Zootan would eventually run into trouble. According to colleagues, Jim and Zootan often worked on missions together. According to Jim had even stayed at Zootan's vacation home for several consecutive weekends. They both often went fishing, skiing, and did other outdoor activity. Regarding the unexplained money in Zootan's personal account, it was transferred from Gershony Bank in Guadalajara. This bank had a direct connection to the New King gang. A male colleague thought if Zootan truly received dirty money, he would never use such an easily suspicious bank. After leaving Homeland Security, the team agreed Jim needed further investigation. Additionally, the hacker Van continued to review the shooting video. She replayed it many times. Carnegie Digen to review the she found a truck carrying mirrors appeared at the scene. If synchronized with images from the nearby Atma, culprit's face in the mirror could be clearly seen. She immediately accessed the entire US national database. She searched for facial recognition photos. She finally identified the suspect as Cesar Mazzilio. The team quickly headed to his residence. Mark led a group to approach from the front door. Oliver and Ivan went around to the back door for support. As Mark knocked on the door, gunshots rang out from inside. He yelled, "I've been Van." An officer severely wounded. He then kept his eyes on the peephole. As soon as he saw a shadow approach, he kicked the door open and rushed in. The people inside panicked and ran out the back door, but Oliver and Ivan immediately apprehended them. However, the arrested people were not Caesar. They were a curly-haired girl and a man with a neck tattoo. Both arrested individuals were as silent as clams. They didn't utter a single word. Oliver had heard that if New King members revealed secrets, they would be stuffed into a barrel of raw garlic until they died. And to yourself, these people would rather die than say a word. The agents collected fingerprints from the apartment, but they were from several months ago. Hacker Van reviewed all assets under Zootan's name. She found no indication that he and his wife, besides their house in Belmont 2, owned any other vacation homes or properties. Nathan reviewed the interrogation transcript. It was from when the 4 met Zootan's colleagues the previous day. In it, a male employee named Malzai had mentioned Gerzani Bank in Guadalajara. But the problem was, this information wasn't public. Malzai would only know which bank it was if Zootan personally told him. Hearing this, Mark immediately went to Malzai's house. He arrived to find Malzai preparing to flee. Mark and Oliver immediately gave chase and stopped Malzai on the road. He tried to abandon his car and run, but he clearly didn't know who was chasing him. Malzai was eventually escorted to FBI headquarters. Mark and Oliver proceeded to interrogate him. They only needed a short time to get the information. Malzai admitted the vacation home story was fabricated. It was to mislead police into investigating the gym. "You know you took bribes. Your fingerprints are on his keyboard. You blamed Zootan because you knew he discovered your shady dealing. We then tracked down your sister's bank statement. Where was it? Indio. Right, that makes her a federal accomplice. She could be sentenced to 15 years in Victor Vi prison." What? To protect his sister, Malzai quickly confessed. The drug gang was creating an opportunity. They wanted to force Customs and Homeland Security to clear a facility. This would allow them to conduct transactions easily and without obstructions. But obstructions occurred. Zootan was eliminated by a New King assassin because he discovered Malzai was bribed. Malzai claimed he didn't know the time, location, or transaction detail. But in his car, the team found a burner phone and a work phone. Nathan immediately tasked Ivan with computer analysis. He sent them to the decryption team to trace Malzai's contacts and call history. Nathan and Van then returned to Zootan's house. They informed his family that Zootan was a hero. He bravely stood against the drug trafficking organization. That evening, Oliver reviewed the special team member profile. She wanted to learn more about her new colleagues in the intelligence office. She wanted to understand the people she worked with better. She unexpectedly discovered Assistant Jill's 9-year-old son died. He was killed in an accident caused by a drunk driver. Just then, a familiar woman walked by. Oliver hadn't finished reviewing Mark's profile. She immediately turned off her computer and chased the woman. She was unaware of a worsening tumor in Mark's body. She also didn't know Dia's former superior met Nathan. He accused Oliver of suspecting suspected drug involvement on an undercover mission. Nathan's assembled team was excellent, but they were undeniably on the system's fringes. They would do anything to seize their only chance at success. Back to the main story, the decrypted phone data arrived. It showed Mozai lied about not arranging a time. He had secretly ordered all Customs and Border Patrol to stay away from Pier 31 at the port. The team immediately rushed to the scene. They confronted the drug traffickers directly, but the situation was chaotic. Some criminals took the chance to drive away and escape. At the same time, Caesar, the assassin who killed Zooton, suddenly approached Oliver. Oliver was hiding behind an obstacle. Luckily, Mark shot him down in time. Everyone then checked inside the port warehouse, but Ivan suddenly ordered a retreat. He then took a radiation detector from his car. The radiation levels on it were spiking wildly. Ivan confirmed the warehouse contained gamma pinch devices. They were exposed to 5,000 MZ of radiation. This was the lost fissionable material. If activated in Los Angeles, it could cause a Chernobyl-level nuclear disaster. Someone was using the drug network. They were smuggling fissionable material into the new King gang members in last night's raid. After port police approval, they would get full interrogation reports. Mark had also spoken with the Economic Crime Unit. They found a stolen Border Patrol vehicle. It was about 14 kilometers northeast of the port. Nathan remembered seeing that car flee yesterday. He vaguely recalled 4 white people were inside. The special team's task now was to review all port images. This was for days before the incident. Cross-reference all logistics, shipping, and customs personnel lists. Find those who shouldn't have been at the dock. Cross-reference. Nathan also asked the evidence team to thoroughly analyze the stolen car. Hair, fibers, fingerprints, non-nuclear characteristics, soil analysis, everything that could provide a clue must be checked. Oliver then unexpectedly spoke up. 2 years ago, she posed as a smuggler at the border on an undercover mission. She had collaborated with a new King associate named Xavier Lopez then. Last night, she passed Huntington Park. She encountered a smuggler who worked for Lopez. She re-established contact. The drug gang is the primary infrastructure. It's used to smuggle fissionable material into the US. If anyone knew who received those goods, it could only be Lopez. Oliver suggested arranging a meeting with Lopez. Nathan worried about her safety alone. He decided to send Mark to accompany and coordinate. On the way to the meeting, Oliver helped Mark create a fake identity. She fabricated a story about how they met, and so she had to retreat and hide for a while. The storm had passed. She wanted to rejoin the drug smuggling operation. Unexpectedly, Lopez pointed a gun at Mark. He suspected this stranger was a cop, but just then luck struck. Mark had just completed 9 months undercover in prison. He still wore a Palm Valley prison stamp on his hand. Even a fingerprint check would only show his fake identity. Police created it for his undercover assignment. Seeing this, Lopez lowered his gun. Oliver then quickly explained she had been double-crossed in a Michigan deal and now extremely short on cash. She heard Lopez was being watched, so she proactively sought him out to help. She was ready to take high-risk deliveries. This offer was very attractive to Lopez. Lopez decided Oliver would do a trial delivery. He wanted to see if they were trustworthy. He had just moved contraband from Joe Sagido. Given the new King gang situation, Lopez feared the vehicle would get stuck at the border. If Oliver resolved that, he would let her join the operation. But this was not easy. If they used connections to let the car through, Lopez would become suspicious. The short man who checked Mark's fingerprints used Border Patrol's internal account. This showed someone within the police was bribed. They couldn't risk asking for their help. The team had to act like real smugglers. They had to safely get the goods through the checkpoint themselves. Luke and Mark drove an empty truck. They disguised it as a pig transport. They claimed they were going to Mexico for port business. Oliver and Ivan also drove a car into Mexico. The group met at a smelly pig farm in the suburbs. They were to pick up crates of goods the smugglers had prepared. They then changed the license plates to avoid identification. While connecting crates to the car, Luke accidentally cut his palm. He quickly wrapped the wound with a shirt. The group drove near a gas station to prepare. A bearded police officer in a patrol car drove closer. Oliver knew this corrupt officer from an undercover mission. She knew his habit of taking bribes. She slipped him a package of lollipops mixed with cash and drove his car away from the scene. Oliver followed the truck closely. The group headed straight for the US checkpoint. Ahead was a long line of vehicles stuck, waiting for inspection. Luke was so tense, sweat poured down his forehead, but he tried to stay calm and answer each police question. The officer suddenly noticed his injured right hand. He asked him to pull over for further inspection. At the command center, Hacker Van monitored the situation. She saw police using a special light scanner to inspect Lou's truck. Mark realized things were getting out of hand. It was time to create some drama. Nathan received Mark's signal. He immediately called the checkpoint. Impersonating an FBI agent, he reported that a federal satellite detected a suspicious vehicle. It was trying to cross the border at Tizuna. The license plate was FDX52. The car Mark was driving. Mark hit the gas, driving wildly to cause a diversion. Oliver turned on a siren, impersonating police. She sped to the scene, pretending to subdue the criminal. She delivered a convincing blow to Mark. She tackled him and restrained him on the spot. It prevented other officers from panicking and shooting Mark. The diversion was perfect. All police officers were immediately distracted. Ivan quickly opened the gate for the truck to pass. He then returned with documents to headquarters to pick Mark up from detention. The group took the car to a safe place. They opened the rear cargo compartment to check it. Inside were bags of pungent animal feed. They tore open the feed bag. Inside were tightly wrapped drug packages. Each orange bag contained about 6-7 packages of contraband. The entire shipment is worth about $50 million on the black market, but they must give this shipment to Lopez to investigate fissionable material leads. Oliver knew catching a fox sometimes requires good bait. Thinking of these drugs flooding the streets gave her chills. Police often face such dilemmas. Mark completely understood Oliver's mood. That night, they drove the truck to the delivery point. Oliver secretly kept 1 kilo of drugs. She felt 1 less kilo might save an addicted child dying on the street. She considered it a good deed. Oliver planned to destroy the drugs in the river. Mark watched her hide the package silently, clearly not believing her. Mark watched her to Lopez, taking the chance to get more info. We heard the new king is working with high-level dealers from China or Europe. I want a piece of such a big deal. Lopez reacted immediately. I know nothing about the Chinese, but our boss is from a Russian-speaking country. Oliver was about to ask more, but the car in front suddenly exploded. Lopez was critically wounded on the spot by fragments. He had seconds left, dying. Lopez whispered the mastermind's name, Volk. The story flashes back to 2008 in Minca, Belezo's capital. Anton Bozit's brother and a defense ministry employee suddenly appeared at his door, covered in blood. An American just looked for me, Anton said. He works for Hazit, a large American food corporation. The American wanted to buy real data on Belezo's agricultural output and the last harvest stability index. Anton took the money but didn't plan to give real data. He printed 2005 statistics and sent them to the US. The American immediately discovered it. He demanded to meet Bozit directly. Soon after, the brothers met Dennis the American to meet Bozit. He knew Bozit worked for the Ministry of Defense under Kostenko. He set a condition: hand over all Kostenko Kremlin emails from the last 4 months. Anton's debt would be cleared. Otherwise, his brother might slip and fall down the stairwell. To save his brother, Bozit acted. When boss Kostenko left, Bozit quietly turned on the computer and copied all emails. At home, Anton kept apologizing for involving his brother in danger. He went to wash his face in the bathroom, but Anton never came out. Bozit opened the door and found his brother dead. That evening, Dennis returned home, surprised to see Bozit leaving the building. Bozit gave him a hard drive, coldly warning, "Take this and disappear. Never appear before me again." Dennis ran to his room, checked emails, then started the toaster for dinner. The toaster exploded as it started. Flames erupted, reflecting Bozit's face. Could Bozit be behind Volk's face? Could Bozit be behind Volk? Back to the present. Lopez and his men died in last night's explosion. The explosive was military-grade K4. It was attached to Lopez's Range Rover ignition switch. Hacker Van checked Lopez's car repair log at the garage. These backward drug dealers didn't use computers. Everything was handwritten. She also found the name Volk, a Belezo's surname. Since the Soviet Union dissolved in 1989, Belezo's has been a true vassal of Russia. They openly supported recent Eastern European aggression, drawing strong US and NATO criticism. Ma remembered her undercover time in Palm Valley. A cellmate named Timmy Novik. Let's just call him Timmy Novik. Let's just call him Timu. He was from Minca. He had ties to the Belezo's underground in Los Angeles, knowing robbery, drug, and weapon trafficking rings well. If this case involved the Russian, Timmy would likely know them. Mark felt he had to return to prison. Oliver thought it too dangerous. Prisoners never believe transfers are coincidences. Mark's return would raise suspicion, but he decided. Nathan made arrangement. The prison director strongly opposed this plan. Inspector Mitchum worked undercover in Palm Valley. Those were my worst 9 career months. But what if Mitchum doesn't have to go back to Palm Valley? The Palm Valley prison, a board time was suddenly called. He was told a lawyer requested his presence at an appeals hearing. Timu was transferred to Funga to meet the judge. Corn on board. He was told Ruiz Q was escorted to a prison van. He was surprised to see Mark in the van too. Mark once saved Timu from a dangerous prison brawl, but Timu still didn't trust Mark. "You were transferred to the High Desert State Prison, right?" "Yes, I heard the stadium there is crowded." "What are you talking about? There's no stadium there." Luckily, Mark didn't fall for the trap. The two chatted idly in the car. When the time was right, Luke activated a special device. Immediately, the escort vehicle's tire exploded. The car lost control, crashing into the roadside barrier. Timu immediately saw this as a chance to escape. He signaled Mark with his eyes. As Oliver and Luke, disguised as escort officers, ran to check, Mark immediately subdued them. To make the act convincing, he fired a shot next to Luke's head. They handcuffed the escort police and left them in the car. They then ran to a small alley in Van Hoy. Mark led Timu into a rest stop. There, they found 2 work uniforms and changed. "I have a powerful uncle. Oh, can help us leave the US immediately. But first, we need a phone to contact him." Just then, they heard workers outside. They decided to leave their hiding spot. They entered a corner cafe, targeting a man's phone. Mark walked to the counter, pointed at a coffee, and asked the busy man, "Excuse me, is this your coffee?" The man stood to check. Mark then pretended to spill coffee on him. Timu quickly grabbed the phone from the table. The unaware man went to the restroom to handle his wet clothes. "Excuse me, is the Sekims to Mark quietly followed, broke the doorknob, locking the man inside. Outside, Timu contacted a distant relative. They arranged to meet in a nearby neighborhood. To avoid tracking, Mark pretended to toss the phone into a trash can, but he secretly slipped it into his jacket pocket. Meanwhile, Luke and Oliver untied themselves. Luke was furious about the shot past his head. It was Luke's 40th birthday. Mark almost gave him a bullet through the skull. They immediately returned returned to the special unit headquarters to report to Nathan. They said Mark would contact them with information. Just then, the Vanverd district prosecutor appeared. He'd learned Nathan's plan from the prison director, so he came to question it, but Nathan was no pushover. He responded harshly. "I don't care who you are. You have no right to question me here. I don't need anyone to teach me how to investigate." The prosecutor heard this and grew angrier. He criticized Nathan for letting a criminal run free, affecting public safety, but Assistant the Jill exploded upon hearing that. The prosecutor had snooped around here many times, repeatedly demanding to join the investigation. Here Menewa Chill knew their political motives well. The prosecutor wasn't truly for justice. He only wanted credit and fame for his gubernatorial campaign. But for us, this is not politics. This is our sole focus to complete. So please go lecture somewhere else. The speechless prosecutor muttered, "You'll see," and left. Night fell, but there was no news from Mark. He was in Timu's relative's car, listening to the two in front arguing loudly. They spoke Russian. Mark understood little. After they stopped arguing, Mark asked Timu, "What's going on?" "You said you'd take me to your uncle." Timu replied, "My uncle Mikhail runs a traditional Belezos dance bar in Bubon. The bar is under renovation, but we're going now." Soon after, they arrived at the Belezos bar, but the uncle wasn't keen on helping Timu. While the uncle and nephew argued, Mark excused himself to the restroom. He thoroughly checked all restroom stalls, ensuring no one was there. Then he pulled out the phone to contact Oliver. Mark was in a hurry. He couldn't explain at length, so he spoke briefly. "I got a phone. Tell Hacker Van to locate it quickly." He flushed the toilet and hung up. Oliver immediately reported to Nathan. Did he directly request assistance? No, so what's your plan? Follow him closely or let him handle it himself. When Mark left the restroom, the two men were still arguing at the door. Seeing this, he took the opportunity to slip into the backstage area to investigate. Mark searched the staff room but found nothing. He carefully pushed open a door deep inside. Unexpectedly, he saw a map of Los Angeles port covering the wall, along with photos and summary documents. Mark's heart sank immediately. Before he could act, a man in a hat appeared and spotted him. Immediately after, Timu's uncle pointed a gun at Mark's head. The man in the hat said he saw everything in the room. Kill him immediately to avoid trouble. Hearing this, the uncle pressed the gun and forced Mark from the hallway. Meanwhile, the man in the hat removed all papers, photos, and maps from the wall, piling them onto a nearby table. Looking closely, this man's face strongly resembled Bozit. Then, he noticed a light bulb in the corner and a lighter on a cigarette pack. He had an idea. He smashed the light bulb and threw it into the pile of papers. Then he took apart the lighter and poured its contents onto the table. Finally, he reconnected the light bulb's wire. The brief spark immediately set the papers ablaze. At the same time, Mark was escorted to the backyard by the uncle. Timu tried to explain, but his uncle wouldn't believe him. Mark also couldn't think of an escape. He was seriously ill anyway and didn't have long to live. That's good. It saves long-term worry. But when you die, look me in the eye. Mark was ready to sacrifice himself. But then Timu saw smoke rising from behind the door. A loud explosion rang out immediately. Mark seized the chance, lunging to grab the gun from his uncle. He immediately ran out of the bar without looking back. Just then, Nathan's men arrived to help. Mark immediately warned that the suspect was armed. Immediately, both sides opened fire, fighting fiercely in the chaos. Timu was shot by Oliver. Fighting fiercely, Luke tried to use the opportunity to move, but found his gun jammed. Timu's uncle immediately took the chance to shoot at him. Mark rushed over to check on Luke. Luckily, the bullet only grazed him. Luke narrowly escaped death, but the smile on his lips suddenly froze, because in front, Assistant Zil was shot and in critical condition.